Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salam alaikum, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. As usual, um, it's a great pleasure to have Dr. Hashil with us. He's not a stranger. He's part of our family. And he's always there to support and help our students. So today, Dr. Hashil will be talking about a very important topic, which is how to choose your research topic. This is important, this is vital, and this is gonna help you in your research journey. Whether you are undergraduate, you are postgraduate student, this is something that you will find useful and interesting. Dr. Hashil, over to you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا الكريم محمد بن عبد الله معلمنا الأول صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be among you. You are the real heroes here. This is our third webinar, and the title, as you can see, it reads How to Choose Your Research Topic. And so our big question today we are trying to answer through the session is, where do research-worthy ideas come from? Many students approach me asking us, can you suggest some topics for our projects? Can you suggest an idea I could start on or for my research? And I really find this quite tricky questions because I shouldn't be the one who's suggesting research topics for others or for students or researchers. You should look around and you should find your own topic based on your interests, based on your values, as we're gonna see. We live in rapidly changing world, no doubt. That if you look around, we're surrounded with lots of issues, challenges, problems, and also possibilities at the same time. And so these are all can be converted into research topics. These can be utilized as starting points, springboards for your research and research projects. And so when we look around, we see challenges, problems, conflicts here and there. There are organizations, there are people, individuals, there are lots of events, and so on. And at the same time, we also have opportunities. For example, AI is a big opportunity, but if, for example, students use it to forge an assignment, then it becomes a problem then. So we are surrounded with problems, challenges, and also opportunities. So an opportunity can be both, in fact. So if you take an event, it can have two aspects, positive and negative aspects. If you take like organizations, we can look at them as doing, good things, helping people, but at the same time they can be abused, and then there'll be negative consequences or negative impact on people. So we have all these paradoxical things that are going on parallelly at the same time. You see what I mean? So the world around us is full of actually ideas for research. These are ideas that's worth investigating.
Abdullah.
Yeah. So let's look at the webinar agenda for today. We've got three main points. As usual, before we begin our webinars, I always have these quick highlights from our previous webinars. It's just to connect what we are talking about today with what we discussed and covered in the previous webinars. And then we're going to discuss 15 sources of research ideas with their examples. And I would like also you to contribute to this. We will have 2 breaks where you could contribute your own ideas as well. And then we'll have open discussions where I'll invite you. Hopefully you'll be able to stay with us until the end of the webinar. So you can share your research ideas and also tell us where these ideas come from, their sources. All right. So let's very quickly go over the two webinars we covered so far. The first webinar was on reflective thinking, and the second one we discussed types of research and research papers. And here is a quick highlight on the first and second webinar. In the first webinar, we talked about reflective thinking, and it was like an introduction to research. And we said that research begins with us being reflective thinkers, because reflection is what makes us researchers, what makes us critical. And so we said that reflective thinking helps us to become more aware of our thoughts, values, and actions. When you reflect on your thoughts, then you consider the kind of ideas that you have, how you look at the world around you, how you think about the events and individuals and organizations, what's going on around us. So we can reconsider our thinking, whether they were true, were false, were accurate about those kind of considerations or otherwise. We also have values, and through reflective thinking we revisit our values as well. What we consider important maybe like 5 years ago, we might not really very consider it as the same value today, because things keep changing. So that's reflective thinking, all right? And also we reflect on our actions as well. We also said that reflective thinking helps us to reconsider our assumptions, the assumptions we are making about the world around us. So through reflective thinking, we become better thinkers, and we tune up our assumptions, we improve our assumptions, and we revisit, we reevaluate our assumptions, our assumptions we are making about the world, okay, how things work out, how things happened, and how people behave, and so on. So we continue to revisit our theories, our assumptions about the world around us and how it works. Reflective thinking also helps us to better understand our surroundings and the events, and this will help us, of course, take better decisions. We also said that reflective thinking makes us to become better critical thinkers, which is, of course, in turn is help us conduct better research. If you really want to do an excellent piece of research, you need to be highly critical in the way you look at the world around you, the way you evaluate ideas, the way you select topics and ideas for your research, critical about the methodology, critical about how you interpret and explain your results. So criticality is very important, and it comes as a result of being reflective. We also said in the second webinar that there are different types of research, and we choose these types of research based on our needs and values. We said we have different types of research because research is conducted for different reasons. For those of you who joined us for the first and second webinars, we talked about these ideas about reflective thinking and also about types of research. So the core issue here is the needs and values. And today we're going to use the word value as well when it comes to selecting your topics. So let's begin. So what are the different sources of research ideas? Or in other words, where do ideas for research come from? Now, let's do some little brainstorming before we begin. And I would like to hear from you. You can either unmute your mics and share your thoughts, ideas, and or you can use the chat box to share your ideas as well. So let's see what these sources are. Where do ideas for research come from? I've got 15 sources of ideas. We're going to discuss them, inshallah, in today's workshop. But before that, I would like to hear from you. So our big question here is, where do you think ideas come from? What are the sources of ideas? So let's hear from you. You are welcome to share your ideas by unmuting your mic or by sharing them through the chat box. So let's see.
Yeah,
Questions we pose in daily life. Yes, okay. Questions, yes. It's either you are posing those questions or asking those questions, or there's questions from others as well. Okay, so lots
yes,
of ideas.
I would like also to say from personal experiences and from reality that you experience every day.
From your our everyday life experiences. Excellent. Yes, of course. As I said, we are surrounded with lots of complexities and opportunities as well, challenges, events, and so on, individuals. And by reflecting on the world around us, we can always get ideas, of course, using our own values and according to our needs. Yes. Something else?
Wow.
So where do ideas come from, do you think? So yeah, our daily experiences. Okay, the questions that we ask or other people ask. What else? For example, if you think about your own topic, when you did your assignments, for example, your a project for one of the courses, any of the courses you have done so far, where did the idea for that project come from? Is it like something suggested by your teacher, or is it something that you originated yourself based on your experiences? Can you share that with us, please? Okay. Some of the issues that don't cover enough from research. Yes, of course. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about gaps. Okay. I think Yasmin, you mean the gaps, yeah? Okay. Mysterious topics that need to be explained further. Yes, I agree. Different topics we read about. Oh, yeah, through our reading, of course. Yeah, we mentioned that. So, yeah, our reading also is an important source of ideas. Okay, good. So, yes, so we do research. We're trying to fill these gaps, of course. Yeah. Okay, previous research, of course. Okay, very good. Previous research and findings. Okay. No, all research have like limitations. Okay, all research has limitations, and so there are still gaps. And so, yeah, one of the research ideas come, or one source of ideas for research comes from previous research. Yeah, the more you read, the more ideas you get. Okay, yes, more ideas, of course, come through doing research. Excellent. Some really creative and innovative ideas coming up here. Thank you for the interaction. Okay, for me as a teacher, many questions come from challenges I face with children. Of course. Okay. In fact, every class we teach and every workshop we attend or every webinar we conduct, of course, generate lots of ideas for research as well. Of course. Excellent. Okay. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate your interaction. Okay. So let's carry on. Right. Dr. Ahmed, can you just confirm, please, that you can see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Is it full screen now?
Now full screen. Yeah,
Okay. And is it moving?
it is moving. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you. So thank you so much for all the ideas. Many of what you have said, if not all, will be part of our discussions today. So let's begin with this. To me, the first source of ideas for research is what we call the axiological position. What is axiology? Axiology is the study of ethics and values. All right. And it is a research paradigm and philosophy. I don't want to take you to research philosophy, but we have six paradigms we have axiology, we have ontology, we have epistemology, we have methodology, and then we have the methods. Okay, so there are 5 or 6, there are 6 actually, philosophical paradigms about research. And one of them is axiology. Some people put it at the beginning as number 1 because it actually refers to our perspectives and values. And it's what we value in life, what we consider important. And that's where research comes from. So the first source of ideas comes from what we value in life. Okay, we look around and we have lots of things that we value and lots of things that we consider important. And so this will be a very good source of ideas for our research. So for example, a researcher decides to explore issues related to freedom. Okay, this is something we value. Another thing we value is equality. Another thing we value is justice. Education is also something we value, we highly value. Or collaboration and cooperation. Okay, we also value these concepts. Volunteering, for example, and so on. So there are a number of values that we consider important. And so if you break down any of these big concepts, you can get research ideas. Lots of research ideas you can explore through these topics. Look, take for example big concepts like equality, okay, freedom. What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to be like in education despite all the hardship? How do we value collaboration and volunteering in these difficult times? You see what I mean? How do people understand volunteering? How do people understand collaboration? And will collaboration and volunteering, for example, means different things to different people in different contexts? This is a very interesting piece of research. If anyone is interested, I can support you with this. Very, very interesting, because here you will get into a qualitative research where you meet people, you interview people either face to face, in person, or remotely, but you are trying to understand what collaboration and volunteering equal means to people, to different people in different contexts, especially to people who are like in Gaza, for example. And then you compare this to what these concepts mean to people outside Gaza, let's say in Europe or in the Arab world, okay, and so on. See what I mean? So why do we research these ideas? Because we consider them important. We value them. We highly value these concepts. So this is your axiological position or axiological stance. So you are taking a position or stance that highly appreciates education, and you will carry on to learn and also teach regardless of the difficulties that you're having. You see what I mean? And so you believe in something and you consider it important, you strive and you fight in the sake of that in that concepts or notions or idea. So I hope that this first point is clear. So this is your axiological position. This is your axiological stance. So you are taking a stance. You are taking a position. Okay, and you consider these issues important, and so this is what you value. This is what you consider important. And then research, of course, comes from this first point. So far, so good, guys? Okay, so that is the first source. Let's move on to the second source. You can also get research ideas by being curious. And that's the sign says, be curious. The more curious you are, the more ideas you begin. Curiosity is about asking questions. It's your personal interest and passion, your intellectual passion towards a topic. And this often leads to more sustained and enthusiastic research because you love that topic. You have great passion towards this topic. This will create enthusiastic researcher out of you, and this will sustain this kind of passion for research. So let's take an example. A researcher interested in media coverage during wars, for example, trying to explore the reasons for the one-sided coverage of the war on Gaza in Western media. You see what I mean? So that person, a journalist, for example, or a researcher journalist, is interested in media, interested in how the war, for example, the current war in Gaza, is being covered in different cultures. Okay, and why is it like in one-sided in some countries? Well, okay, so what I mean. So this is one example of how curiosity could lead to research. All right, that's the second point. So the first point is that you value something and then you base your research, okay, on that. Here you have curiosity towards something that you consider also important, and you have passion, intellectual passion, and you carry on your research on that. You start your research based on that idea. All right, so far we have seen two. So your personal intellectual curiosity and also your axiological position. All right, let's look at the third one. Again, you can get ideas for research by reflecting on your context and the events around you. And we mentioned this several times. So reflection, as we said, reflecting on our daily lives and events can very well produce excellent ideas for research and inquiry. For example, what can be learned from the current war in Gaza in relation to teaching and learning? What do you think teaching should look like at this time of hardship, of displacement, okay, lack of resources, okay? How could teaching and learning be conducted or continued? You see what I mean? So you reflect on our everyday life, and we get ideas through reflection. All right, so that's the third source of ideas. Okay, I don't want to go very fast to help you, of course, absorb these ideas. So this is the third source. All right, I hope you are taking notes, and then you can ask questions later, or maybe one of these ideas will catch your attention, and you decide to explore these ideas further for your research. Okay, let's go to the fourth one, professional experience or practice. As teachers, as educators or managers, whatever, we are professionals, and our professional experience is also a source of research. Let's see how it works. Insights or issues encountered in our everyday life and everyday work can raise questions which are worth investigating. So, from our daily contact with people in our organizations, in our schools, colleges, even in our classrooms with our students, these raise questions and insights which are also worth investigating. For example, a teacher noticing how project can work to motivate students and promote their autonomy and independence in learning. I say, for example, I noticed that my students are highly motivated, become really more independent and autonomous if they work on together in small groups on small projects. They prefer projects to, let's say, paper and pencil traditional exams. They said, okay, don't give us an exam, try to give us like a piece of project to work on where we gather ideas, and then we have a presentation at the end of the project, and we submit a research we submit a research paper at the end of it. This makes us more motivated, and this helps us become more independent, and we learn better this way. Okay, so try to evaluate us based on project rather than giving us a test. See what I mean? And so if you notice something like this in class, then this is an idea for research. Then you start investigating this. Okay, how is it different from traditional assessment? Okay, how do students like it? So you investigate this through the students, and also by looking at their performance. So through our professional experience and practice, we can get lots of ideas for research. All right, so far so good. Okay, let's look at the fifth one. Current debates and controversies. Okay, we always like engage in debates and so on. And for example, we got in our policies and our theories, our practices, we speak and we speak with others, and we get into discussions. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree with others, and so these disputes in policy, theory, practice can also spark inquiry and ideas for research. For example, conflicting views on the role of AI in education. Yeah, should AI be used in schools? Should we allow our children at school level or even college level to use AI? What are the students' views on this? What are the teachers, educators' views on this? Are there advantages and disadvantages? Some people think that it has become part of our everyday life and we cannot ignore it. Others say, well, it has more disadvantages actually. Even here in the West, there are now research coming out saying that students are not really are not supposed to use AI for their courses because it limits their creativity. You see what I mean? Because it stops them from thinking because they can ask ChatGPT and they got all the ideas and analysis, and for example, it can summarize paper and critique papers for them. So what is your view? Do you think AI should be allowed or should not be allowed? So as you can see, these kind of debates and controversies can be a very good source of ideas for research. All right. And I'm sure some of you have gone through this experience, either being students or educators. Okay, let's look at number 6. Of course, we are in the age of technology, and every day we have like something popping up, something new. So those are emerging trends and innovations, new technologies, and societal shifts often open avenues for new research. Let's take an example. The rise of remote learning, for example, after COVID-19 and the impact on students' engagement. Do you think remote learning is effective? Can we carry on with that, or do you think it's not a very good replacement for in-person teaching? Okay, so again, this kind of emerging trends like online teaching or online meetings, webinars have now become a trend, especially after COVID-19. You see what I mean? So platforms like Google Meet, Zoom, and Microsoft Teams have become very popular platforms. They are much more have become more popular after COVID-19 than they were before COVID-19. So this is an emergent trend, something new, something that we did not experience before. And so this is also another source of ideas for research. All right. And so you can then, for example, if you take our example again here, it's about remote learning. What are the teachers' view on remote learning? What are the students' views about remote learning? All right. Let's look at number 7. Okay, policy documents also can be a very good source of ideas. So you go through documents or something new coming out from Ministry of Education, from your university, from a college, from the government, and then we go over this document, and then we read it, we agree with some of it, we disagree with other aspects of it, and so okay, well, let's do research here and then find out what's people think and how people react to this policy document that has just come out. So national or institutional educational strategies might highlight priorities for research. An example will be ministry report suggesting that we need to integrate active learning strategies across the school curriculum. And in Sultan Qaboos University, for example, where I teach, we have this like the integration of active learning into the curriculum has become like now a policy across the board. All colleges and all courses, all teachers would have to include or integrate elements of active learning into their everyday classes. And so that has become like a policy document from university administration or the ministry. And so again, let's look at this. We see, is it working? What are the pitfalls? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Okay, and so on. What's the impact of the new strategy on our students, on teaching and learning, and so on. So again, those kind of policy documents that comes out from the government or institutions can be another source of ideas. All right. Someone mentioned also through this previous research. Okay, yeah. And so those dissertations and theses by master and PhD students, usually at the end, they have ideas for further research. Okay. And so you go take one of those theses or dissertations, you flip to the final pages, find the section on further research, and they will have list of ideas for further research. Okay, you can find something that is appealing to you and you can take it up from there. So further research can be like explored for further ideas, for research ideas. And so, for example, further research should explore the topics, for example, using mixed method research. If this research, for example, was conducted using quantitative or qualitative, then future research or further research can be conducted using mixed method research, where both quantitative and qualitative data are like conducted together and combined and compared. All right. And so these are all ideas that again we can use. It doesn't have to be thesis or dissertation. Any piece of research, any research paper can have a section at the end for ideas or suggestions or recommendations for further research. And I'm sure you have seen these in any research paper you have gone through. Yeah. So again, this is one of the ideas for research. As you can see, we have lots of ideas, loads and loads of ideas for research topics. So I think after this, we're not going to go around and ask people, what can I do for my research? Okay, just be critical and reflective. Look around, and you will be amazed by how many ideas you can come up with. Okay, let's look at number 9. Okay, gaps that still exist in knowledge, practice, methods, or theory. Okay, when we do research, of course, we don't cover everything. Okay, the research is never perfect. There will always be gaps either in knowledge, in practice, in methodologies, okay, or in theory. And so you can design your research to fill a gap in knowledge. For example, that research covered XYZ aspects, but it still did not cover another aspect, okay? Aspects, other aspects that have to do with the methodology, for example, or other aspects have to do with certain communities, certain contexts, and so on. For example, research has always been done in other contexts, but for example, the context of Palestine, for example, it has not been explored fully, and so there are still some gaps. There are still some gaps and ideas for research when it comes to the context, like the one in Palestine. And so I would be interested, like in partnership with other researchers in Palestine in order to conduct research on a certain topic by taking the Palestinians context, the Palestinian perspective. So that is a gap in knowledge. It's also a gap in practice or methodology. I see what I mean. So there are always gaps in research. All right, that's number 9. So let's look at the number. Before we go to number 10, I would like again to hear from you. We got still about 5 more sources, but let's stop here for a while and see what more sources you think you can think about. Let's check, give you the chance again here in the second break to think. There will be more, I have, of course, chances at the end of the webinar. But let's see if you have got any ideas so far from all the sources I've mentioned for ideas. I hope that you found them useful and also practical. So what other sources do you think that we have not covered? before we carry on. I have, I think, 5 more to go. So we have mentioned a lot, okay? Gaps in previous research, your axiological position, documents, policy documents from governments, reflection on our context, the things around us, the trends, technological advances like AI in education, reflecting on our own practices as professionals, and so on. So many sources. We covered 9 of them so far. So, does anyone have any other ideas or would like to comment on any of the 9 sources of ideas for research before we carry on? You can unmute your mic. Everyone is welcome. Or you can use the chat box if you feel typing is easier for you. Yeah. Please feel free to unmute your mic or type in the chat box. I've got 15 ideas for you in the workshop today. But of course, we can talk about more ideas. These are only just what I consider important, the 15 sources. Anyone wants to share his or her ideas? Okay, Shuruk, thank you. Personal interest, of course, yes. Okay, your passion, intellectual passion, your personal interest in a specific area or field, yes. Okay. And it's actually your reflection on or your experience in that particular field or area. So that's true, yes. Your personal interest. You will notice that research is always something like personal, that it begins with something personal, something that you are motivated by your values, which is something personal or shared, of course, can be shared, can be personal. Interest is again something personal, your own thinking, your own reflection, your own critical thinking, and so on. You see what I mean? So it all begins with us as being like individuals, and as something we relate to ourselves first. So I think the starting point is us as individuals, as human beings, as complex beings. Let me put it this way: complex beings. Okay, and so understanding people, how they think, is really hard, because we're so sophisticated human beings in our feelings and our emotions, how we react to the world around us, and so on. So it all comes from us, yeah. Maybe from personal interest, as Shuruk says. Thank you. Review of paper, yes, through review papers, research papers or review papers can also generate ideas or suggest research. Oh yeah, conferences, of course. You attend a conference, you participate in one, or you attend one, or seminars can spark ideas for research. Okay, yeah. It's something you want to dive into? Yes. Okay. Networking with researchers, of course. Yes, I always encourage this. Networking is a very powerful tool. And by the way, we can also hear this is a very good opportunity. Thank you for bringing this. Is it Zahran, yes, it's very important. Networking with others is very important, and we can also work on interdisciplinary research. For example, if you are a teacher, you can partnership with someone who's working on psychology, because psychology and education go hand in hand. Okay, we cannot separate actually psychology from education. So you can end up partnering with someone who belongs to a different discipline and end up doing interdisciplinary kind of research. And so that person hears from you, you hear from him or her, and then those ideas can be developed into, that conversation can be developed into research ideas. Excellent. Networking, yeah, of course, that's very important. And we can, of course, by our society and the issues in the society can be an inspiration for research. Excellent. Of course. Yes. Okay. These are all great ideas for research, of course. But so let's carry on. Okay. So these are some of the ideas. So we mentioned 9 so far. This was the last one that we talked about. Okay, great. Let's carry on to number 10. Okay. Let me just double check with Dr. Ahmed. Can you see number 10 on the screen?
Yeah, coursework and
Excellent.
assignments.
Thank you. Now, these are again some of ideas that are very much relevant to students and education. So they're not general and philosophical, but these are very specific to education. I wanted these sources also to be perhaps more relevant to students. So um, research ideas can emerge from topics that you covered or we as educators covered with our students in class, or the questions left unanswered in our assignments. You see what I mean? So you take a course, you work on assignments, and then but again you don't answer every question that the teacher, for example, discussed in class. For example, a paper on language anxiety. Okay, for example, you are reading a paper or research paper on language anxiety. Okay, in oral presentations. Okay, and then this could spark a deeper research project. So you decide to work on a research project in relation to the topic of language anxiety. Okay, it's a big topic. So again, something that you came across through your courses, through an assignment, for example, you worked on together, either alone or in groups. So what I mean, so this coursework and the kind of discussions and the kind of questions that you covered in your classes can also spark ideas for research. All right, and I'm sure you find this very relevant. So you attend, a lecture, and you take notes, and then you go home thinking about those ideas. Let's look at number 11. The questions that arise during reading or study. So you come across ideas that can be confusing, can be surprising, can be contradictory in your text, in your textbooks or articles, or through the lectures that you covered and you attend, and so on. These are all ideas again for research. For example, why do some learners remember vocabulary better than others? So what I mean. So maybe you want to discuss this topic, and you use it as a starting point to for research. All right. We know that vocabulary is a very important, when learning a second language or a foreign language. But what makes some learners remember vocabulary better than others? Is that something that to do with the strategy they are using, the learning strategies, or is it's something with themselves as their memories, or is it their study habits, okay, and so on, or is it something else? So there are lots of questions. So the only way to approach this and to understand what's going on is through research. Okay, so that's another source of important source of research as well. And we all use this, social media, of course, and online discussions. Those platforms like Reddit, Twitter, and blogs, whatever, X, Twitter is X now. These are all blogs and so on. They show real life challenges and emerging issues. And of course, we can take these as a springboard for our research, future research. Let's take this example. Online discussion on students using ChatGPT for assignments can result in research into AI and academic integrity. Okay, and this is a big issue now. It's a big concern academic integrity in the AI age. And so many teachers are worried about academic integrity. Are students using AI responsibly? Are students using AI ethically? Okay. Is academic integrity being, let's say, affected negatively by students using AI? Shall we allow AI in courses, or shall we not? And so on. So these are all discussions and issues. And so, of course, online students discuss, or people, generally speaking, discuss lots of things, lots of topics online. And so these could be, of course, ideas for research. um, Peer and group discussions, and I personally find this very, very useful. I was engaged. I was part of a group discussion when I was doing my PhD in my department at the University of Sheffield here when I was a student. And those difficult terms, concepts to do with philosophy, which many students find really hard to get their heads around, like big concepts in philosophy, like ontology and epistemology. I get to know these through group discussions and peer group discussions more than reading books on research methods. And so those peer and group discussions can help you great deal. They can help you understand things in an easier way, in a better way. So those conversations with classmates often lead to discovering common issues and, of course, unexplored interests. And you can find partners again. You can find people who share the same interests, the same ideas, and you can partner you can pair up with someone else to make a research group, a research team. For example, we all struggle with a written exam. We should explore the causes of this problem. Is it the hard content of the course, or is it our poor test taking skills? So through group discussions with other students in your course can generate, of course, ideas for research. You see what I mean? So they are very, very useful, these group discussions. This can, of course, take place face to face, or can take place online. But they are very, very useful. Try to find someone who is like-minded, someone who shares the same interests and passion with you towards particular issues, and you can partner up. You can pair up for research project. Why not? All right. So that's number 13. Two more to go. Personal challenges as a learner, and students' own difficulties or strategies with learning can be rich starting points for a research or for inquiry. Let's take, for example, this problem of procrastination. Investigating why some students procrastinate despite having clear goals. Again, that's again a big question. Why would someone procrastinate if he or she is having clear goals? He or she knows what they are doing. You see what I mean? Why would delay things? Procrastination is putting off what you are supposed to do today to tomorrow. You see what I mean? التأجيل أو التسويف in Arabic. And so this could be a personal challenge, of course. And so through a personal challenge as a learner, you can, of course, come up with an idea for research. So reflect on your own study habits. Reflect on your own experiences as students. What are the success stories? Okay, I'm sure there are many things that you have done very well and you are happy about the results. Try to explore that and try to write a paper on that, and then and publish it so others can also benefit from what you found successful. Okay, and then you can also, on the other hand, focus on a problem, a challenge, for example, and then write a paper on it. Try to investigate the source of that problem or challenge, and how do you think you can overcome that challenge or solve that problem. Okay, and so when you publish this, you will definitely find someone else also sharing the same issue. and so on. So it will be helpful for someone out there. So don't worry about putting your ideas down on a piece of paper, and try to find out who else can help you with that. You can partner up with a colleague. You can partner up with one of the teachers.
هذا الرجل اللي
I mean,
مقابل في العمارة في
this
الشقة.
will help you again partner up also with someone who is in research. So if you can then provide the ideas and the maybe materials for that topic, the other person can help you with methodology. And so here we have someone who is expert in methodology partnering up with someone who has research ideas, and then you together you can come up with build a research team. Okay, and then you invite other people with you. So it all begins with the personal challenge you face as a learner, as we said in this point. All right, guys, so far so good. So we now got 14. This is number 14, the personal challenges as a learner. And number 15 is our observation in daily life in general. Okay, we interact with people, we interact with problems and challenges, and these can turn into meaningful research questions. For example, take this example. A student observes that classmates tend to speak English differently depending on whom they are speaking to. And this could lead to a study on code switching. All right, why would someone switch or code switch in one context but not in another context, depending on the situation, depending on the who they are conversing with, who are they interacting with. And this, so through your observation in daily life, you can come up with ideas. And so you observe and reflect, and then this will generate ideas for research. All right, so far we've talked about 15 sources of research ideas, and I hope that after this no one will then have this question, where can I find ideas for research? You said, I mean. So I hope you found this useful, and again we open the floor for discussion. And you feel free, please, to ask questions or share your research ideas or your topics. If you are working on a research project, please feel free to share it with us and tell us where the idea actually came from. Where did it originate from? If you are thinking of doing a research in the future, then tell us about your initial idea and where that idea came from. Okay, I'd be more than happy to listen to you, of course, and support you whenever possible. Thank you so much. Those are 15 ideas, of course, but of course there are more. And this will be shared with you, inshallah, by Dr. Ahmed. And we'll be more than happy to hear from you now. Okay, if you are, as I said, if you are working on a research project, please share it with us and tell us where the idea originated from. All right, over to you then. Okay, so you can unmute your mics, please, and talk to us live, or you can, if you prefer, then you can use the chat box as usual. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hashil. So please, if you have any questions or comments, send through in the chat box. Unmute your microphone and feel free to send your contribution.
Of course, on our upcoming seminars or webinars, we will be talking about how you can then formulate these ideas into research topics like titles, and how you can navigate through the methodologies, and how you can, at the end of it, how you can then end up writing your paper. We'll go step by step, showing you how you could conduct high quality research, ending up, of course, publishing it. So I presume that our last final workshop on this series would be how to publish your research paper. All right.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, I want to speak a little bit about
Yes.
uh, choosing a topic now, especially this now in Gaza as a student or as a girl from Gaza. I want to say that at this time, if I want to choose a topic, definitely it would be linked to Gaza. And like sometimes I think about writing something that's not linked to Gaza, then I feel the guilt for not writing about it. So recently I have an let's say ideas about writing something like voices from Gaza. Like I want to write about a few topics, like many topics in one place, in one research, let's say. So would the strategy of this research would be the same as regular research or not? This is what's confusing me recently. Like how would I write this idea?
Yeah, you can.
Is it
Yeah,
clear?
yeah, you can do that. Yeah, Dana. What you could do is to put your ideas down on a piece of paper, try to narrow it down, and have clear objectives, and then from those objectives, develop specific research questions. You can tackle more than one topic, but there must be something in common. But it all depends on your research questions. You just have a research questions, like two, three research questions, very specific, and then because research questions will guide your research. Okay, so you can have ideas, of course, different ideas,
Yeah.
but you need at the end of the day you need to have clear top research questions because the
Yes.
research
Yeah,
questions will
I said
guide your topic and then will guide the methodology as well later.
yes, I said like I wanted to write a few like paragraphs or something like this, articles, and like there would be a link between all of them. And another question, like the language I will use in writing, would it be like now I'm writing about humanitarian topics, let's say, and I know that as a researcher, I don't I shouldn't write with my emotions and with my empathy so much. But for writing humanitarian topics, like I don't know, should I use like my opinions, my point of views, my personal point of views, or not, or just stay avoidant?
Yeah, thank you.
Avoidant.
This is very interesting, very good question. We talked in our previous webinar about types of research. Okay. Now, if it's something empirical, you will be collecting data from your participants. This could be families, could be children, could be parents, could be teachers, could be students, whatever. All right. So you decide on a specific group to study. If it involves data collection, if it's empirical study, then it will be based on your participants. So your job will be to interpret what they say and put it into a in a research format and publish it. So it will be the voices. You will be reporting on the voices of your participants. Is what I mean. But if it's like autobiography, if it's something your own experience, that's another type of research, a different type of research paper where you are not engaged in getting data from participants. So that would be a different type of research and a different type of paper. And of course, that's where you can, of course, share your personal emotions and feelings. I hope this is clear. And you can do both, of course. You can do either. Okay, yeah, thank you. So you may need to go back to our previous webinar and where we discussed types of research and types of research papers. We discussed empirical and non-empirical. Okay, so you could choose which type of research fits your purpose and research questions. Okay, but can I ask you please that if you can uh, share with us the ideas that you have for your research. Where did it originate from?
From this reality, from what I see every day when I walk between the streets in Gaza, and like I see something and I think beyond this, like I want to write about this. And for example, let's say, wait a minute. Like for story one, like I took one once I took a picture for a girl between the rebels. So, and I saw the look of hope in her eyes. So I thought I want to write about hope in Gazan's eye, or in Gazan's children eyes, like from these daily experiences, like, if you want to say.
Yep. It's again, so I'm happy to see that you are referring to one of the points that we discussed in today's webinar. Yeah, our reflection on daily life experiences. Thank you. Thank you to Dana. Thank you. Someone else? Any more questions? Any more? Please, Shuruq, go ahead. Shuruq, you have your head raised. You can unmute your mic. We can't hear you, Shuruq. You need to unmute your mic, please. Okay. If you have a problem, if you can't unmute your mic, then you can type if you like, if you find it easier. Dr. Ahmed, how much time we still have? And because
We still have 20 minutes, but yeah, we are flexible in time. So 20 minutes or so.
okay. Because I try to limit my presentation to 1 hour, so
Should be fine.
giving the floor to others. Okay, so what you could do is to start thinking about all those 15 sources of ideas that we discussed, and then see which one appeals to you the most, and which one rather represents your situation. Some of you find it easier to get ideas by reflecting on your daily experiences, daily life, things you see around you every day. Sometimes you can get ideas from the courses you're taking, group discussions, let's say a document or a policy that came recently from your university, something that you saw in social media, you know, a challenge, a problem, a question that you have about how things are done, like for example media coverage, and or for example something related to your own studies, like for example vocabulary acquisition, assignments doing, or maybe anxiety you have, for example, when making oral presentations. Okay, how can you overcome this? You always you know the topic very well, but when it comes to talking before others, then that's when you start shaking and you forget everything you have prepared. That happens to many students. You may need to start looking into this, and why did it happen to me? Did I have this before, or is it something recent? How can I overcome this challenge, and so on. So you start like watching a couple of YouTube videos about this. You start talking to your teacher about it. You start talking to other students. You found that 3 other students also share the same problem. So why don't you get together and decide to explore this? And then your teacher can help you with methodology, or we can help you with sources. I mean resources. Yeah. So ideas could come from different sources. Shuruq, again, you have your hands raised. Go ahead. We can't hear you. Go ahead, Shuruq.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. First, thank you, Dr. Hashil, for these informative sessions. And I didn't have a question, but I want to share my research title with you.
Great.
Okay, it's Apartheid and Settler Colonialism in Ghassan Kanafan is returning to Haifa. Yeah. I did choose this title because I found it essential to explore how literature captures both historical pain and ongoing resistance, and I find it related to me, related to the Palestinian. So that's why I did choose this topic.
Excellent. And as we say in Arabic, الباحث ابن بيئته. الباحث ابن بيئته. So you can't
Yeah.
detach yourself from your surroundings. We cannot detach ourselves from our land, our people, our culture. And you always find yourself, especially in this time round with these difficult times, you will always find yourself in, as Dana I think just mentioned, that I can't get away from Gaza. It's in me. It's everywhere around me. Even if I think about something related to others, etc. But it always brings me something, brings me back to Gaza. I want to do research about Gaza, about the people in Gaza, about families, about displacement, about the war, about journal journal coverage or media coverage, about the lack of food, about suffering and people losing their children, things like that. It's always about that. Or maybe education, something more educational. It's about teaching and learning during this tragic war, how we go about the challenges. Because we are again surrounded with these ideas, with these notions, with these realities. These are new realities that are being started to develop, and we are part of that, of course. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, exactly. And by reviewing previous studies, I found that they maybe overlooked these two terms,
Yeah.
apartheid and settler colonialism. They did discuss exile, identity, but they didn't talk about settler colonialism and apartheid. Actually, I found that most people talk about apartheid in relation to South Africa.
Yeah.
But they don't know, or maybe they don't consider what happened, what we are facing is a kind of apartheid.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And it's through research that we also raise awareness again to others. So when you conduct your research, you publish it, it goes public. That's one way to raise awareness. Thank you.
Sorry, Sharuq, to ask, are you a postgraduate student or undergraduate?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Are you an MA student? Are you doing MA or you're still undergrad?
No, BA.
BA. Okay, good. Great.
And diploma and education.
Excellent. That's good. Okay. Dr. Hashil, if you don't mind, I would like to highlight a point and ask a question. Now, students, as you understand and know, do a lot of assignments during their study. What is your recommendation in this regard? Like, how can we maximize the benefit from assignments that we submit as students? So, for example, when I was doing an MA or PhD, I always thought about how to maximize the benefit from the assignments that I submit or coursework that I submit, how to convert it into a publishable research that I can share with others and benefit from.
Yes, thank you. Yes, one of the sources, perhaps this is something that we may not have talked about, with due consideration. But the assignments they are also writing for your courses. Yeah, I mean, the motivation for these course assignments is to pass the course and to meet the course requirements. But don't forget that you have put in those assignments lots of effort, lots of thinking has gone into this assignment, because your motivation was to get a very good high mark there. And you did, of course. You passed your assignments with a very good mark. So what to do with it? Is it the end of the world? Is it just to put it in your drawer? No, but you can make more use of it. You can maximize the benefit of that beyond the course requirements by going back to that assignment, looking at what you have gathered in the literature review section, if you have a methodology section, if you gathered some data for that assignment, you can still gather more data, try to make it, develop it into a publishable piece of research, and with some tweaks here and there, you can convert it and reformat it as a publishable paper. Because you already have an idea for research, you already have research questions, I guess. You already have a methodology. If it was like empirical research, you already have a bit of literature review and findings. But perhaps you may need to gather more data and collect more evidence, and then rewrite it, reformat it in a publishable format. Why not? So yeah, I encourage students to make use of their assignments. So don't just get the have the motivation for doing assignments only to pass a course, but also why not maximize the benefit, as Dr. Ahmed says, and reformat it as a publishable paper, and start contacting journals, and see which journal can accept to publish it, depending on the topic, of course, and the scope of the paper. So yes, I agree that you can always go back to previous assignments that you conducted, because you really spend time on them. So some of the assignments took months of your studies. Yeah, you conducted them, you finished those assignments over let's say 2 months or 3 months or whatever, or the whole semester. And so yeah, don't just let put them up there in your shelves and forget about them, but take them up, pull them up, and see what you can do with them, and if you can make changes, improve them, gather more data, and reformat them, for example, to fit the journal requirements. And I'm sure you'll find a journal that would accept publishing it for you. Yeah, thank you, Ahmed, for Dr. Ahmed, for raising the important questions. Yeah, because many of the students spend really long time and put a lot of effort in those assignments, but for the sake of the course. And then what happened after the course? That's it. Yeah.
In order not to make it a wasted time and effort.
Oh yeah, sure.
Dr. Hashil, one last question from my side, if you don't mind.
For sure.
How do you see the benefit of peer support, like students who seek feedback and support from each other in terms of research? Like, for example, when I formulate a research topic and I ask a colleague or a classmate to give me feedback, what do you think? As a reader, like, a second eye is always helpful. But when it comes to research, is it personal, completely personal, or peer support can help, or like feedback from classmates can help? What do you think?
Yes, we actually do this in one way or another. I mean, even the established researchers will always seek assistance or second opinion from a colleague. For example, you might be a member of a research team, and so you will be like member checking, or peer review will be conducted within the team. If you need someone else outside the team, then that's also possible. And I think that also improves the quality of the paper once you have done it. You can do it at the end of your paper, to get someone to look at the paper before you send it off to the journal, or while doing the research, for example, seeking assistance from an expert on analysis, for example, data analysis. You could get someone to look at your methodology. You get someone to look at your literature review, research questions, for example, whatever. So it can be done while conducting the research, while writing up the paper, or at the end of it. It's always helpful, of course, but then you need to find out someone whom you trust, someone who's into that area. For example, if you are doing research on, for example, on applied linguistics, okay, and teaching and learn, for example, teaching listening skills, for example, or speaking, whatever. So you need to find that someone who is into the area, so can give you an expert opinion. and so on. Someone on methodology can look at the methodology section, and so on. This will improve, definitely will improve the quality of the paper before sending it off to the journal. And of course, once it's received by the journal, it will be assigned another reviewer who will be again giving you feedback on the overall quality of the paper and what changes he or she recommends that you do or you make to the paper in order to get it published. And usually papers go through blind review. So it will be sent to more than one reviewer anonymously, of course. That's blind review, and then you get feedback from both of them. From both the reviewers. You will improve your papers based on those recommendations. But yes, seeking assistance, professional assistance, expert opinion on your papers can improve the quality of your paper, definitely. But again, the question, Dr. Ahmed, remains is that, well, there are two questions. Where can I find someone whom I trust, who can really be, really helpful? And are there any specific issues that, for example, I'm talking about ethical issues, before you anonymize your data, you may not want to send it to someone else because the data is still not anonymized. Because if the data contains personal information, then that might not be an appropriate time to send it out to people. So you anonymize the data, make sure identities of the participants are removed, and then you can send it to others. Because if you send it with for example, the names of the institution, the names of the participants, then that is a violation to ethical issues.
That's right. A question from Dr. Yahya, if you don't mind, Dr. Hashil. What criteria, of course, he's thanking you for an informative webinar, and he is asking, what criteria do reviewers or editors use or focus on when evaluating the paper before publication?
Yeah, I myself serve as a reviewer to many for many journals, and we have a set of criteria, of course, and each criteria has a value, a number value, a numeric value, and so we evaluate the paper, for example, out of 60. If it's 40, then it's not publishable. It has to be more than 40 out of 60 in order to get published. So each criteria has a numeric value, and then we add up all the values, see out of 60 how much the paper gets out of 60. If it's less than 40, then it's not recommended for publication. And again, the same thing we also do when evaluating academic promotion applications. One of them is to do with whether or not the topic of the paper meets the scope of the journal, because sometimes you can get desk rejection. Desk rejection means immediate rejection. The paper is not forwarded to it's not forwarded to the reviewer if it does not fit within the scope of the journal. So that's one important criteria. Rigor is another criteria. It has to show evidence of rigorous methodology. There is a clear alignment between the topic, the research questions, the purpose of the research paper, and the methodology. I personally, first of all, look at the methodology, because to me, the methodology is the backbone of the research. Okay, and as we say, like in Arabic, إنما الأعمال بالنيات, we say إنما الأبحاث بالمنهجيات. فإذا صحت المنهجية صحت النتائج. But if there's something wrong with this methodology, then there are question marks raised on the relevance and the validity of the results. Yeah. And so قياسا على الحديث انما الاعمال بالنيات انما الابحاث بالمنهجيات، وهناك عندنا وانما لكل امرئ ما نوى، هنا لكل باحث ما نهج. And so this is how we evaluate it. So we look at different criteria, of course. As I said, the scope of the paper, matching the scope of the journal, the rigor in terms of quality of the the rigor in terms of the procedures followed by the researcher in the data collection and the procedures for data analysis, and see how all this has been done. Contribution to knowledge is also another big criteria. Is it really useful? I mean, you could do research which is highly rigorous, you have no problem with methodology at all, and it's very, but so what? I mean, it's not something like that is really new. It's not something that can be like can enhance our understanding. You see what I mean? So it has to include elements of contribution. How does it really help us understand the issue, the topic, okay, and so on? But of course, this does not mean that it's really hard to do research or how to write paper. As long as you describe and reflect on your daily life, for example, for that kind of research which can be conducted by students, for example, you can always conduct your research based on your daily life experiences. So you live your daily life, you write a paper describing your daily life experiences, or someone else, you engage in research where you conduct research based on what data, real life data, authentic data from people. And then you just put it in research format and you publish that paper. No one can say, no, this is wrong, this is not said by people, because you have described the methodology, you have described how you gathered your data. So I need to find out how you actually gather your data. You see what I mean? I want to find out who was involved in that research, how the data was collected, and how the data was interpreted. If I can see that clear methodologies that here and there, and I can see the link between your research questions, methodology, interpretation of ideas, and then finally recommendations, that's it. So that's clear progression, smooth progression from topic to goals, questions, methodology, interpretation, analysis, recommendations. So what I mean. So that's what we mean by rigorous, clear procedures. So yes, these are the basic criteria. So journals look at this: scope, rigor, contribution, and of course, knowledge, new knowledge. Thank you. And of course, there's the language aspect, of course. It has to be, of course, written in an academic tone, free from language inaccuracies, and so on. These are, of course, important. So make sure you proofread it, get someone to proofread it for you, and before sending it to the paper. Otherwise, if it contains lots of problem, it's like in language, then basic language errors or spelling or something like that, then it can be rejected straight away.
Excellent. And of course, when you say scope, Dr. Hashil, I assume that researchers and students and those interested in research can find about the scope before even sending the article to the journal by reading on website of the journal, right?
Of course, yes. Yeah, all websites, all journals have websites, and usually the submission is done through the electronic submission page on the website, journal websites. And of course, before you prepare your paper, your manuscript, we call it manuscripts before it's published. So your manuscripts have to be formatted according to the guidelines published by the journal on their website.
And do students have to pay any money to publish?
Not all, no. Some if it's students, you are exempted from payment, and even some journals do not charge fees. Some do, yes, but again, it depends on the criteria, or it depends on whether you fit within the students' criteria, professional criteria, organizations, and so on. If the journal is asking for publication and hosting fees, that's what they call it, hosting fees, then you can contact your organization and see if the organization can support, because sometimes some universities do encourage publication, because if you publish it and you belong to, for example, Al-Aqsa University is also will benefit, because this is a paper that has been published by a member of staff academic in Al-Aqsa University, and that will of course contribute to the university ranking and reputation. Some universities do provide financial assistance to their faculty members or even students, because any published research will contribute to elevating the university ranking and academic reputation. So some universities can be. So if you contacted a journal and you found that the journal is asking for hosting fees, then contact your organization, your university or college, and see if they can support with that. Otherwise, what you could do, if university is not supporting, what you could do is that you can partner up with someone else, and so you can share the cost.
Sounds good. Any comment or question? One last question before we finish, guys. One question or comment? Otherwise, if you don't have any questions, we can call it a day and wrap up. Of course, I'll be sharing the recording with you shortly after processing, so you can visit the recording again. And I think this is an exhaustive list of sources of information, like 15. I was taking notes. I think this is an exhaustive list and really useful. And I myself learned a lot in this session. Thank you so much, Dr. Hashil. This is really informative and useful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for to everyone who attended with us today. And I can see George is also there. She's coming.
Yeah,
Thank you.
George is here.
Thank you for
Hello.
oh, hi.
Hello. Thank you. I snuck in late. Sorry, Dr. Hashil. I was
Thank you
late,
so
but
much.
I loved hearing from you again. That was fantastic, and it's just so amazing to hear about the students' ideas. I'm itching to read more of your work in the future. So just feel encouraged by, from an outsider's point of view, how much you have to offer. As I mentioned to Dana in our chat, just I want you to know, from someone who can't understand what your daily lives are like, unfortunately, you have such a gift to give by offering that knowledge. So that's all I'll say, but thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Hashil. Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you so much.
That's lovely to hear. Thank you. And by the way, you are not an outsider anymore. You are part of our family. So you're really part of us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, guys, so let's stop here. Thank you so much, Dr. Hashil, for your time again and again. We can't thank you enough, but thank you so much as usual. Hopefully soon we'll be having another session on another topic. So stay tuned, guys, for that announcement, another session with Dr. Hashil, inshallah, very soon. Thanks, George. Thanks, Dr. Yahya. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. And Dr. Hashil, would you like to say anything before we finish?
I would like to thank you personally, Dr. Ahmed, for organizing this. It's a great effort. We understand the hardship. We understand the challenges that you are facing, but despite all this hardship and difficulties, you are making it a reality. Thanks to Dr. Yahya for coming, George, all of the lovely students who joined us, and I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks for our upcoming session, inshallah.
Thank you, Dr. Hashil, and thanks, everyone. So let's stop here and see you soon, everyone.
Take
Stay
care.
safe.
Thank you.
Salam.